How's it going, everybody? Disselling Joker's back, and if you couldn't tell from the thumbnail or the music, I'll be doing a time trial video on Wonder Museum. Now, this is the track that I personally have heard a lot of complaining about. This is a track that a lot of people either find very difficult or they just dislike driving in general. I personally think this is one of the best tracks in the game, and it's one of my favorite tracks in the game. And if there's one thing I can say before going into this video, do not get greedy on this track. Let me tell you right now, this track is the track that punishes you for being very, very greedy with your drifting. Now, I will go more in depth on that later. You might be wondering, Disello, what makes you qualified to teach me anything about time trial, and let alone just learning these tracks in general? On screen, I have an updated TT list that shows some of my better times. I know I cherry picked these a little bit, but these are some of my better times in both sonic speed and a few supersonic speed times to showcase that I at least know a few things about playing the game. This is not me trying to brag, and this is not me trying to be arrogant about my skill. I know I have a lot to learn, but as I do these videos, I improve quite a lot, and I'm hoping that I'm improving you guys as well. Now, without further ado, let's get on to the character and gadget selection for Sonic Speed Wonder Museum. When it comes to time trial characters in Sonic Speed, I've said this in previous time trial tribulation videos, so I'll try to make this very quick. The power characters are going to be your best because they have very good speed and boost on the main combo. Now, you can also pick the boost characters such as Miku and the newly added Whisper. Both these characters are extremely viable as well because they have very good boost, and you might be wondering, what's all this emphasis on boost for? Boost is so important because boost as a stat is what allows you to get your drift boost as fast as possible. So, when you're on a character, say, like Creeper, you're losing out on significant amounts of boost, which can actually really hinder your boost charge rhythm, which can actually make it significantly harder to get level 3s and level 2s off when you really want them most. Not only that, the speed stat is important because you need to be in a certain speed bracket to translate that boost very well. Whisper could potentially be in a lower speed bracket than Eggman, Knuckles, Vector, and the other power characters, and if that's the case, I will tell you in a coming TT video. But for now, there's no conclusive evidence, so please pick whoever you like from the boost class or the power class, and you can also pick some of the handling characters. Some of these handling characters are very solid, so do not be afraid to play them, but I do believe some of these, such as Amy, might be very slightly slower than the power characters, so keep that in mind. But pick who you like. Just try to avoid the acceleration characters unless you want to give yourself a challenge. When it comes to the main combo of J.A. this is just the most min-max speed and boost that you can get, giving you 60 boost for 26 speed, which is extremely good. Now, if you don't want to use J.A., just try to find some gear that gives you at least around 26 speed and gives you around that 60 boost, maybe like 2 points less to boost, but I would just say stick with J.A. if you want to get an S rank or if you want to get a top 100 time. When it comes to gadgets, there's only going to be a few viable options that I recommend personally, but you can mess around and play with whatever you like. The best combos are going to be Perfect Charge Bounty, Ring Game Boost 2 slot, Quick Charge level 2, and Quick Charge level 3. This combo is extremely good and is very reliant, very consistent, but it hinges on the fact that you're getting Perfect Charge Bounties almost every single boost. Not only that, you're not missing a Perfect Charge Bounty early on. If you miss any Perfect Charge Bounties early on, it can heavily hinder you long term, and it won't translate that well going forward. Now, the other build is actually a Tech Drift build. This is going to be the other viable build, which is Perfect Charge Bounty, Tech Drift, and it relies on you getting a lot of level 2s, so you're getting a lot of rings extremely quickly. Now, this build is significantly harder to perform and is much higher execution, so you can fail to use this build very easily. Not only that, this build also has the issue of being slippery because of how Tech Drift works. The fundamentals of this build are a little more advanced, and the lines you have to take are going to be a little more unique, so keep that in mind going forward. But if you want something that's a little more high execution while still giving a really good reward, this is actually a really solid build. Now, one last build that I would like to recommend is actually a supersonic speed build that a couple of the Wonder Museum time trialers, aka the world record and the second place holder, have, is the Counter Quick Charge, Perfect Charge Bounty, and Quick Charge level 2 build. This build is actually extremely solid for Wonder Museum because it's very hard to get level 3s off very consistently on these very tight bends. Because Wonder Museum has so many turns, especially turns that make it almost near impossible to get a level 3 off without spinning out, this build actually heavily hinges off the fact that you're getting a level 3 before you go into the turn, which allows you to take that turn at maximum speed, and it allows you to get a ton of Perfect Charge Bounties off significantly more quickly than any of the other builds. Finally, there was a commenter, if I find them, I will post their comment here, when they actually asked me to go over and make builds during these time trial videos for people that cannot play online. So, for a couple offline specific builds that you can try, there are 2 builds. It is going to be Ring Game Boost 2, Quick Charge level 2 and 3, and Starting Bounty Boost with Ring Range Up. This build is very good for Wonder Museum because on these very tight turns you have to take, or very hard turns that you have to take, there's actually ring lines that you can pick up with Ring Range Up, but but you have to be a little more wide instead of taking the lines as tight as possible. But it does help you to get through 100 rings pretty quickly, which is really nice. And if you think you can get 100 rings very quickly without having to sacrifice some lines, don't be afraid to slam mini ring game boost on. Is going to be very nice for giving you more speed since you're not going to be getting perfect charge bounding off consistently. The biggest issue with this build obviously is you don't have any consistent ring generation, so keep that in mind. But if you want something that is completely offline and free to play with no DLC, no festival gadgets, no online gadgets, anything like that, either this build or the ring range up build are both viable options. Now that I've gone over the gadgets, the characters, and the vehicle choice, let us finally get into Wonder Museum as a time trial. To get started with Sonic Speed Wonder Museum, let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people are doing, and that is drift greeting. Now, drift greeting refers to the fact that you're trying to get drift boosts that you shouldn't be doing, especially in Wonder Museum with how many tight bends and long turns there are. Makes it very, very compelling to want to get a level 3 off before these turns or before these bends. Here's the problem with doing that. A lot of the time you're trying to get a level 3 off in situations where it's either way too risky or it'll set you up for hitting a wall or spinning out. This is something I actually did as I was practicing for this video and trying to improve my run so that way I could showcase what a good run would look like. So the biggest thing I recommend is just accept the fact that you're going to get a level 2 rather than a level 3. It is not the end of the world if you get a level 2 for 6 rings, because you're still getting a 25% speed bonus, but it's only for 2.5 seconds as opposed to 3.5 seconds. If you can, try to set up a level 3 before the bend. Even if my run's not fully optimal, as you can tell, I'm no longer getting stuck in the situation where I'm about to spin out and hit the wall. Now, this leads into the next mistake, and that is not charging a level 3 before the scripted jump and not charging it properly. This is something that's very vital because when you are taking these scripted jumps, if you don't properly set yourself up with a level 3 charge, it actually can take your level 3 charge away from you well before you get to the end of the jump. What you want to do is you want to set your level 3 up in such a way where you're charging it in the middle of the jump and you go at it about fully perpendicular to the jump itself. So that way, if you're going straight forward, you're basically fully sideways. This is important because getting this level 3 out at the end of this jump actually allows you to set up for a much faster level 1, 2, and 3 charge than you would otherwise, because you're in a 25% boosted speed state because of this. So make sure when you are playing any track with a scripted jump like this that is semi-short, like Colorful Mall for example, you set yourself up to get a level 3 on the exit of the scripted jump. Otherwise you will lose a lot of time and it will take a lot longer to charge your next drift boost. Now moving on to the third major mistake that you're probably making, and that is the wisp you're picking up. So there are going to be 3 major wisps you should be picking up. That should be the first wisp, which is right at the very start of the race. This one's very easy to get and doesn't hinder any of your lines. The next one is not the second wisp. The second wisp actually forces you to go very wide before the scripted jump, and I do not recommend this one. It usually makes you lose about 1/10 to 2/10 of a second, depending on how you take that line. Don't go for it unless you really need this to help you. The third wisp is actually after the Tornado 1. You can either pick this wisp up, which I recommend if you're not consistent with picking up the final lap wisp when the Tornado 1 is in the battle mode, but if you are consistent on that, you can actually save this as a backup strategy if you miss that wisp, or you don't want to go for it at all and you want to have a safe, consistent, good time. Now finally, onto the final wisp, which is actually right after you take the off-road cut at the very end of the track. It's going to be on the right side. This one's just right in your direct path. Don't be afraid to go get it. It is very easy, and the 3 major wisps you should be getting are Wisp 1, Wisp 3, and Wisp 4. You can technically skip Wisp 3 if you are very consistent with the Tornado 1 battle jump and know how to time getting either the regular wisp or the King Wisp on the Tornado 1 battle section. And let's talk about the Tornado 1 battle section now. Going on to the 4th mistake, and that is the Tornado 1 section itself. So you might be wondering, wait, why is this a mistake? So here's the thing. The Tornado 1 is actually based on how fast you get here, and that defines what cycle it's in. Because of this, depending on the cycle, you could actually not have a cycle that it gives you a valid way to get one of these wisps, and because of that, you have to judge this on the fly. That is why I recommend actually saving the 3rd wisp that you're supposed to be picking up, and save that for the last wisp pickup as a backup strategy in case you don't have a cycle where you can get a wisp consistently or safely. This ensures that you actually play your final lap very safely, and it gives you a guaranteed way to actually go through your final lap without having to say hit the Tornado 1 wing, which can instantly kill your run. To wrap up Sonic Speed Wonder Museum, the final mistake is the fact that the dinosaur has no off-road under it. So all that this dinosaur is doing is actually blocking a straight path, and it's actually based on how fast you get here. If you get here very fast and you're hitting all your drift boosts and you don't hit the wall at all, usually this dinosaur is actually going to be in the down position when you're coming out of the tunnel, and that's going to be rising back up, which allows you to get a guaranteed free drive right underneath it, and it gives you a perfect setup going straight into the long roundabout section where you can charge a level level 3 before hitting it. This is something that I actually fell for when I was first learning the game and first improving. So I wanted to point this out to any people that think there's off-road in here and you have to waste a speed item. You don't have to. You only have to use a speed item on the small patch of grass off-road to the right of the dinosaur to get a guaranteed safe path, dead straight ahead to the spiral section where the Brontosaurus fossil is defending the 100 ring. To wrap up the Sonic Speed section, I want to just talk about one last thing, and that is snap drifting. Now, I don't want to talk about snap drifting, not because I don't know how to do it, but because I want this to be a video that helps people improve the track without having to use snap drifting, which for many people is a more advanced technique, but for some of us that have played the game for a little bit longer or decently good at the game, it's not that bad. But I don't want everyone to be overly reliant on snap drifting because I feel like there's much better ways to improve the game without having to use snap drifting as the one and only way to improve. But if you are trying to get a super high level time, such as like a top 5 or even a world record, you might have to employ some snap drifting into your gameplay. Hopefully you guys learned something from the Sonic Speed section. Now let's go on to the Supersonic Speed gadgets and builds. Unlike Sonic Speed, Supersonic Speed has a very unique set of character and vehicle choices, that being the speed characters primarily Shadow, Blaze, and even Jet, funny enough, because they all have 9 boost, and all 3 of them have very, very good speed, so they're all very viable options. If you're trying to min-max everything, I'd probably recommend just go Shadow or Blaze, because they have 9 boost and 20 speed, but again, Jet is never a bad option. When it comes to your vehicle choice, for free vehicles, Neolitron is probably going to always be your best in-slot option, but if you do have the DLC and you want to mix and match some of these vehicles, Minecart's a good option. I do recommend mixing Minecart with Neolitron if you have both available, because Neolitron's handling being so much higher than Minecart's, while Minecart has solid boost, actually can help this quite a lot and make it easier to handle a lot of these turns on Wonder Museum, because these turns on Wonder Museum are so dang hard to handle. Next, let's talk about the gadgets. When it comes to Supersonic Speed gadgets, unlike Sonic Speed, you're going to be running Counter Quick Charge, Perfect Charge Bounty, and Quick Charge Level 2. This is the build that actually got me my top 20 time for Wonder Museum. It is a very solid build. It allows you to get your level 3s off very consistently and get your level 2s off very consistently as well. Now, if you don't want to use Quick Charge Level 2, you can always use Starting Bounty Boost, and you can use that with Counter Quick Charge to get to 100 rings extremely quickly. This is never a bad option. If you don't want to run Counter Quick Charge and you want to run something else, Drift Charge Kit is always a viable option, especially if you can't properly use Counter Quick Charge, because Counter Quick Charge is a lot more execution heavy. So if you want something that's a little bit easier on the hands, go Drift Charge Kit. It's a very solid option. I've set some really good times with Drift Charge Kit, so don't be afraid to use it. When it comes to free-to-play stuff where you don't have any gadgets available from online or festivals, your best setup is probably going to be this setup, unfortunately, which is not the best setup in the world. A ring range up just is really helpful for Supersonic Speed because you're going to be in some spots where there's actually a good amount of rings, and even with having really good handling, you're not going to be able to take every turn super tightly just due to either one reason or another. You can mess it up, but this helps you collect rings when you're on the loop-de-loop, going up from the fossilized dinosaurs, going into the tugboat area. But if you don't want to run this build, you're going to have to experiment a little more, unfortunately, because this is probably the best possible option for getting consistent level 3s off, getting consistent level 2s, and just an overall getting a good amount of rings very quickly. There's no ring generation in this build like Perfect Charge Bounty because there's not a lot of dash panels, funny enough, in Wonder Museum, so you can't use like Dash Panel Mini, Dash Panel Bounty, stuff like that. And other than that, the ring gain mini boost and ring gain boost I don't think are that good in Supersonic Speed, unfortunately. They don't translate that well. Funny enough, if they ever do translate really well and I find out that they do, I will talk about that more in the next video. But for Wonder Museum, this is going to be your best free-to-play, non-online, non-DLC gadget, non-festival gadget combo. Anyways, let us get on to the mistakes you're making in Supersonic Speed Wonder Museum. Going into the Supersonic Speed Wonder Museum section, funny enough, the mistakes that are going to be in this section are actually identical to the ones in the Sonic Speed section, but in Supersonic Speed, they're more exacerbated. So, let's go on to the first mistake, that being drift greeting. So, drift greeting is basically where you are trying to get a drift boost off, wherein you legitimately cannot without sacrificing your line, sacrificing some rings by hitting a wall, or something worse. It is a big mistake that a lot of new players to Supersonic Speed do, and in general, even some players that have played Supersonic Speed a little bit, they will do this mistake quite often where they try to to get a level 3 out and make a very silly mistake. Please be very careful when setting up your drift boost. It is very, very tempting to go for those 9 rings, but it's just better, especially in supersonic speed where your gadgets are predominantly meant for getting level 2s off, such as drift charge kit and counter quick charge. Go for the level 2 and set up your level 3 for the longer turns specifically, or in situations where you can get the level 3 off pretty safely, you can go for level 3s. Otherwise, just go for level 2s, get those 6 rings, and consistently get your level 2s. The level 2 and the level 3 boost charge state are the exact same speed-wise. You're not missing out on much outside of 3 more rings with your perfect charge bounty. Next, let's go on to mistake number 2, which is not charging a level 3 through the scripted jump on Wonder Museum. So you might be wondering, why is this a bad mistake? Well, the thing is, in supersonic speed, even though you are going faster, you still want to min-max the amount of time you're in the level 2 and 3 boost charge state. And because drift boost can stack, if you charge a level 3 going out of the scripted jump, you are able to stack a level 2 or even just a level 1 right on top of that level 3, which gives you even more speed, which is very vital to trying to min-max your times. Now, if you're trying to just go for a S-rank time, you don't have to worry about this too much, but if you're trying to go for a good top 100 time, you really need to put this into consideration. Now, here's an example of a perfect level 3 drift hold where I'm holding this till the very end, nearly getting that perfect charge bounty, so that way I can get 9 rings coming out of this scripted jump, which is very, very important going into the next section because I can get even more rings very quickly. So this is just something to keep in mind when going into supersonic speed Wonder Museum and just any supersonic speed track that has a scripted jump like this, such as Colorful Mall. Let's go on to mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is knowing which wisp you should be picking up and when you should be picking them up. So the first wisp on lap 1, you should probably pick this up almost all the time. If not, you can even save it till lap 2 if you really wanted to. I just recommend get it out of the way immediately just so you don't have to worry about it later. Next, skip wisp number 2 because you have to go super far out of your way. It is not really important at all and it loses you a lot of time long term. But when it comes to wisp number 3 after the Tornado 1 jump, go for wisp number 3 either on lap 1 or specifically on lap 3. The reason why you want to go for wisp 3 on lap 3 is because when the Tornado 1 goes into its battle mode, you can actually pick up a King Wisp or a regular Wisp, which gives you 2 wisps that you can actually pick up very consistently on lap 3. And if you do get a King Wisp or you get a regular Wisp, you can actually skip the third Wisp entirely and give yourself a much better, more tight line to the wall, which can save you a tiny bit of time. And then the final Wisp at the end of lap 1, pick it up no matter what. You're already going into that section, going through that line already. There's no reason not to just pick this Wisp up right away. Other than that, these should be the Wisps that you're picking up. There's no reason not to pick up Wisp 1 and 4. Wisp 3 is a 50-50 if you do get the Tornado 1 section or if you don't get the Tornado 1 section down. And speaking of the Tornado 1, let's talk about the Tornado 1 and why it's a mistake. The Tornado 1 on lap 3 specifically is a huge mistake that you gotta worry about because if you take this section wrong, you can hit the wing of the Tornado 1 in its battle mode and it can lose you a ton of time and kill your run entirely. Now, going for the King Wisp or the regular Wisp on the Tornado 1 requires you to, in real time, set yourself up in such a way to collect it. Because this is all gated by how fast you get here from the start of lap 3, it can be in a different cycle entirely depending on when you get to this spot in general. So be very careful and be very attentive when going to this section. Now, one thing I want to talk about in supersonic speed specifically is because how much faster you're going, you can actually fly over the Wisp capsules on the Tornado 1 battle mode section, and because you're going so fast, this also pertains to lap 1 and 2 with the Tornado 1, where you can actually hit the landing gear of the Tornado 1 while it's not in its battle mode, it's just regular plane mode. This is something you have to be very careful about because it can lose you a lot of time and lose you rings. So be very, very cautious with where you're aiming your car at and what line you're taking because it can easily kill your run and send you packing straight into the next run. Finally, let's go on to the final mistake, which is going to be driving under the dinosaur without using a Wisp. This is something that I actually didn't know up until a little more recently when I was practicing my Wonder Museum runs, where you can actually drive straight under the fossilized dinosaur right at the start of lap 3. This dinosaur doesn't block any road that has off-road. It looks like it's off-road, but it is not, so don't be afraid to go straight underneath and take a much better line than you would otherwise. You don't have to take that grass off-road to the right, so be very attentive to the cycle it's on because it is time gated just like the Tornado 1 is, so the faster you get here, the better the cycle it's more than likely going to be in for you. Otherwise, if you have to burn a Wisp to take the grass off-road, don't be afraid to do so if you are very confident in the fact that you can grab the Tornado 1 Wisp. Otherwise, just take the left side and take a safe route until you improve on your lines and fundamentals, so that way you can go straight under this dinosaur without any problems. To wrap things up very quickly, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Hopefully you learned something new about Supersonic Speed and Sonic Speed Wonder Museum. I know the mistakes for both Sonic Speed and Supersonic Speed are pretty much nigh identical, but the thing is with this track is that it really comes down to your fundamentals being really good. And that's one thing that I know I should have probably talked about, but I'm trying to avoid fundamentals and micromanaging you guys when it comes to like what lines, what drift boosts, things of that nature you should be getting off, because I feel like it makes it better to know the bigger mistakes and know the bigger picture of what you're probably doing wrong first, and then moving on to the smaller stuff, the more minute details such as your fundamentals fundamental driving, your fundamental drift timings, and learning a few other techniques, things of that nature, and even staff drifting. It's better to get your fundamentals down and learn the bigger mistakes first before you start working on the more minute details. Otherwise, you might skip over these bigger mistakes and be confused as to why you might be messing up, or be confused as to what silly things are happening in the background that are causing you to fumble your races and fumble your time trials. So anyways, guys, I'm going to leave it here with my Sonic Speed and Supersonic Speed run of Wonder Museum. Hopefully you learned something even more through these without me going over the bigger mistakes of Wonder Museum. If you think I've left out some very key integral mistakes, if I said already, I'm going to say it one more time. Please comment down below, and based on the poll results, we will be doing Eggman Expo and Kraken Bay right after one another, but I will be getting 2 different videos out in between the Eggman Expo and Kraken Bay video. So for the next video, be on the lookout for a video talking about what my current thoughts are on time trial is as a whole, as in things such as why I think time trial is underappreciated, why we don't have a lot of time trialers, things of that nature. And then it should be the Eggman Expo video right after that video, but I don't know for sure. We'll just have to wait and see, guys. Anyways, I'm gonna let you guys watch the rest of the time trial. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something. Comment down below on any mistakes that I might have had in this video. Comment down below what you liked about the video, and have yourselves a great one. Good luck in your time trials in the future, and good luck in your future world matches.